So Battlefield 6's gunplay is kinda broken right now. Well, sort of. Not in the way that a lot of you might expect, but it is actually somewhat broken. Over the past few days, I've been seeing a lot of chatter across all the social media platforms about the gunplay of Battlefield 6 and how it feels sloppy or imprecise, so on and so forth. Now, originally, I wrote this off as people who are newish to Battlefield, not understanding the intricacies of how the game's gunplay system actually works. We're going to be smashing some of those myths today as well, as a means to help you guys get better at the game as well, so don't worry about that. But after seeing some more points of view, clips, and examples of weapons behaving just a little bit strangely in the game here, I decided I needed to do some testing myself. And as the title suggests, yes, something is in fact a bit broken with Battlefield 6's gunplay right now, and we're going to unpack that. So let's dive into the firing range and talk about it now, shall we? Okay, so here we are in the firing range, guys. I've got my M433 build here. This is the same one that I recommended using in my weapon review that I posted yesterday. If you've not checked that out, go give it a watch after this video, because I think that might help you guys out a bit in mastering this gun here. So first things first, let's establish a bit of a basis of normality here, right? Let's just throw a blind burst into a wall here so we can demonstrate Battlefield 6's gunplay working as intended. Perfect. So, as you guys can see there, we have a few shots here kicking up and to the right. The first 5 to 6, 5 to 7 maybe, are pretty bang on accurate. You know, nothing to see here as expected. And then as you hold down the trigger, things bloom out. That is normal. That is Battlefield gunplay to a T. It's how it's been since Battlefield 3 and 4. And the way to get around that is obviously by bursting. I'm not quite dialed in at the moment, so I'm missing some shots, but, you know, as you extend out the range, you got to burst fire a hell of a lot more to make your rounds land on target because, well, I mean, if you just do that, like you're playing a Call of Duty game, you're going to miss. Okay, that is Battlefield gunplay. That's how it's always been. Another thing I want to quickly sort of, you know, get over here as well is that AD spamming here like this is also working as intended. As you can see, I can do that pretty easily. A lot of people have been theorizing that AD spam is what's broken in the game. That's not it either. So the gunplay at its core functionality is working as intended. There's nothing wrong there. However, this is where things get a bit funky. So I'm going to demonstrate a couple more things here again, just for your experience. So say I'm running around, I come around a corner, and oh, there's a target here. I shoot him. Again, gunplay seems to be working as normal. Let's just do it again. Up, target, yep. Cool, down he goes. Easy. However, let's say that we've got a target over here that I sprint around the corner, I see him there waiting for me. Oh crap. Did you see what happened there? I'll do it again. I'll do it on again, but I'll do it on this guy who's, I think, about the 35-meter mark away. You guys can see that the bullet spread is actually a lot more accented there. I'll do it again. So there's our point of reference. It's hard to see the dots here, but I'm hoping YouTube compression doesn't murder the video so you guys can't see that. I'm gonna come sprinting up. You can see the difference right there. That is the spread after we waited a little bit after coming out of a sprint to shoot. And that's what happens when we shoot immediately after coming out of a sprint, even though we're aiming down sights. One more time. It's much more deviated, and that's at 10 meters as well. So if you're engaging a target that's sort of at the 30-meter mark, the 20-meter mark, you've got no hope in hell, right? So here's my theory, my working theory, if you will. Right now, there is a bug in the game where if you sprint, or you come out of a sprint, and you immediately start engaging somebody, or if you immediately ADS and start engaging, your bloom on your weapon, or your, you know, weapon cone of fire accuracy has not had a moment to reset, which means that it's going to be stupidly inaccurate. And I think that's a bug in the game right now, okay? Obviously, there's going to be a milsim argument right now where, like, you know, I mean, that's at 5 meters right there, just shy of 10 meters, and look at the spray on that. Insane, right? There's obviously an argument to be made that, oh, that's realistic, right? Of course you're not going to be able to run with all this kit and then jump into an ADS and then start spraying down a target accurately. Guys, this is not a milsim game. Yes, it's authentic. No, it's not realistic. And this does not translate to responsive, snappy gunplay that's easy to read. Now, I've got another theory associated to exactly why this is happening. And we're going to use a couple of other weapons to verify this theory. So I've now switched off to the SOR 556, basically the SCAR in this game, right? Now, again, the SCAR, when working as intended, one of the most accurate and consistent weapons in the game. It's very, very nice. However, I come out of a sprint. Hang on, let me just get a run up here and do that. Oh my god, it's sprinting everywhere. It's bursting everywhere. I mean, look at that. It's even worse than the M433, right? Keep that mental image in your mind for a second here. Let's switch off to the M4A1, a carbine. Take note of the hip fire accuracy here, yeah? We're going to do the same thing again. It's obviously not bursting as accurately as it should be because, again... Hang on, let me just... That's how it should look at that range, and that's how it came out of when we came out of a sprint. And that is the SOR right there. Okay. So, again, it's even worse on the accuracy front. But, again, look at the hipfire. It's more accurate. Now, to seal the deal, let me switch off to another weapon. All right, for argument's sake here, I'm now on the P5WA3. Obviously, the MP5 in this game here. This thing is renowned for being extremely effective right now. Okay, and I've got hipfire attachments on this thing too. Let's see what happens when I come out of a sprint for this thing. Just do that again one more time. You got the point of reference there, right? Sprint, sprint, and ADS. Notice how there isn't that much of a difference here, right? See how... versus the SOR, the M4, the M433 here. That is a much smaller bullet deviation change by comparison. So, my working theory now, after all this testing and after all this, test work, a bunch of different weapons here, is that what happens is that when you come out of a sprint and you immediately start shooting, even though you're aiming down sights, the game is actually taking your maximum hipfire accuracy that was associated with that movement speed that you've just come out of, being carried into your initial burst here when you fire the weapon. It's taking the weapon far too long across all the guns in the game to reset their cone of fire down to what it should be expected to be at when you're aiming down sights. And this is supported, I think, by the various tests that we've got here across the different weapon types and across the different spread patterns we've got. Because again, on SMGs and on carbines, where their hip fires are typically, a little tighter by comparison to the likes of an assault rifle, you can see the deviation change there. And even with the assault rifles, the M433 is a close quarters assault rifle. It's designed to have a little bit of a better hip fire spread versus the SOR, which is just spraying all over the place there. So what's happening here, I think, is that we've got a bug in the game where right now, if you come out of a sprint, and I should be clear here, this works on sliding. I need to probably change weapons to elevate this example, but this happens on slides, it happens on any kind of positional movement change whatsoever. Anytime you come out of any kind of fast movement pace and then go straight to ADSing, you're going to experience this bug, which is actually going to, obviously, horrifically throw your aim off. So I'm not entirely sure exactly what is causing this. I've got a feeling that for some reason, the cone of fire states that exist between hipfire cone of fire and ADS cone of fire are not interacting properly, or the game's not registering that you are ADSing as fast as it should be, or maybe there's some kind of bleed over effect before the ADS comes into play. Either way, it does feel incredibly clunky, and it is getting in the way of a lot of people enjoying the game. It's also why I think we've seen a wide divide in the community about the game's gunplay, because I too really do believe that the game's gunplay, its underlying gunplay, is fantastic. It's one of the best that the series has ever seen. And people who also don't tend to run and gun as much or play a slower playstyle probably haven't come across this issue as often either, which means that they also think the gunplay is fantastic. And truth be told, you solve this issue, I stand by the fact that that is true. Battlefield 6's gunplay is pretty much damn right perfect right now, but this is why we're seeing weapons like assault rifles and LMGs in particular feeling so cumbersome to use, because they are carrying their hipfire cone of fire accuracy, which is typically worse than that of SMGs and carbines, into an ADS state when coming out of a sprint or when coming out of most movement positions and trying to react to an enemy. And no, just to be clear, this should not be in the game. Once again, guys, as I said earlier in the commentary, this is not a milsim game, and this kind of bleed over effect between hipfire cone of fire and ADS cone of fire has no right being in the game. So, funnily enough, guys, at this point in time, the way to get around this issue might actually be by building your weapons for hipfire cone of fire. Not so that you can hipfire all the time, but so that you can instead carry that improved hipfire cone of fire into your ADS cone of fire to make your initial engagement feel just that bit snappier. I know it sounds backwards, I know it doesn't sound right, but I've actually been testing that as well in the game, and I've actually seen some improvements to a lot of my guns as a result of that. So guys, that is the status of Battlefield 6's gunplay at the moment. I'm going to try and get this video out as soon as I bloody can here, which is why you guys might be seeing this video release at a very weird time here. If you haven't checked it out though, go check out my previous weapon review for the M433 as well though, guys. It'd be greatly appreciated. We're going to be reviewing every single gun in the game, so once again, the support is greatly appreciated. And until next time, folks, stay safe, stay well, look after yourselves and each other, and I will speak to you all in the next video. Peace out, guys. Have a good one.